Welcome to my channel, and in this video I intend to talk about my botanical colorings and how I managed to improve slightly my pictures with flowers and leaves. Since the beginning of my coloring journey, I enjoyed doing pictures with flowers and leaves, but I wasn't 100% satisfied with my results. Even when I got a set of good professional pencils, like Prismacolors, I realized that my problem isn't in lack of pencils, but rather in a lack of ideas and techniques. I started with a set of Derwent color softs. In color softs, unfortunately for me, there are no normal green colors for botanical illustrations. Maybe it's my lack of skills, but still, color soft set it's my least frequently used set if I want to do a realistic illustration. So sometimes indeed problem is in your available pencils, but as I said, even when I got Prismacolors, my greenery didn't look very impressive. Sometimes it simply looked unrealistic. Sometimes my green colors, especially when on the picture there were a lot of leaves, branches, they look like a green mess without normal contrast or color accents. So, what I decided for myself? First thing, I realized that several pencils from Prismacolor set, mostly I prefer to use polychromoses and Prismacolors, so we will talk about them. Some pencils I won't be using if I want realistic coloring. For example, True Green and Grass Green. Despite their names, I still didn't find any way to incorporate them in realistic coloring. For me, they are too vibrant and shades are not matching realistic green colors. Sometimes I use them for fantasy coloring, in Kirby Razanes, in Clara Markova, in Johanna Basford, but not in Leila Diuli or Kanoka Iguza, where I want to color as realistic as possible. So several pencils I totally excluded from my realistic color palette. Then I started to do more careful color planning. And when I have a page with many various leaves and plants, I started to divide all those leaves into color groups. Here I think that we have a good example. You can clearly see that some of the leaves have more warm green colors or olive green, mix of yellow and green. And some colors are more natural, even bluish green colors. In such way, your green page with a lot of leaves, it starts to look much more interesting, at least in my opinion. You don't have this boring mess of the same green color. And since I discovered this trick, it really helped me to do many nice pictures. I think that you can see this trick on almost all my colorings. The same here, several olive green, warm green colors, then natural greens like those pine tree branches, and then almost bluish greens like I have here. And each time I use this trick, I think that it really improves my coloring. Even here you can see this several more even brown going into olive green and then normal green colors. It really helps to solve this problem when you have the main mass of only green colors and you still want it to look interesting. Again, colder or natural green colors and olive green colors. Natural or cold green colors and olive green colors, and you immediately have much more interesting picture. Here I have some ideas about these families of colors. At least that's some of my favorite color combos. Some of them are from Prismacolors, some from Polychromoses, and even budget pencils, they also have nice green colors. As I said, the worst is set of Derwent color softs. Pencils like Arteza or pencils like Arctics, they also have nice shades of green, so it's totally possible to use budget pencil sets and to get quite nice botanical colorings. Here I have my warm greens. For example, you can combine ginger root, lime peel, olive green, lime peel, olive green, kelp green, ginger root, marine green, kelp green. Here I have my polychromoses, May, permanent olive green, chromoxide green. Here are greens which are in the middle. They are not close to yellow and they are not close to blue. Most popular for me are Kelly green, sap green, pale sage, of course Prussian green, my favorite color. I think that I need a huge pack of Prussian green because I constantly run out of this favorite pencil. In polychromos pencils, I love to use earth green, juniper green, pine green, very well for all Christmas pictures when you need to do a pine tree, Christmas tree, all brushes, very helpful color combo. And here I did example of Arctic pencils, pale green, pea green, asparagus green, chromoxide and dark green. Sometimes I experiment a little bit and I use more bluish colors or grayish green colors. For example, I can combine jade green, celadon green, even muted turquoise to make smooth transition into dark green. That's main colors which I always use in my coloring. That was advice number 1. Do your color planning and try to divide all your leaves into several color families. Second idea which really helped me to make my coloring, my greenery much more interesting is to add additional colors. Again, let's try to find some examples. For example, here I have warm gray leaves with touch of orange yellow here. On the green leaves I added more blue color. Another decorative leaf where I added polychromos, burnt ochre and some of the red colors. A picture which I started recently. On the leaves I added mahogany red and mineral orange. It's small touch, but it makes your leaves more alive. You know that when you look at real leaves, they don't have perfect green color. They have some parts which started to turn into yellow. They may have some parts which already start to be brown, but there are also some decorative leaves which have maybe reddish lines, veins in the center, so you can extend your range of colors. For example, for warm greens, I love to use a different ochre, goldenrod, mineral orange, and even reddish colors. For these greens, the same red colors, sometimes I can extend it to blue colors. So that was advice number 2. Try to use additional colors, additional color accents, even for artistic purposes. Even if your leaves start to look, well, maybe a little bit too vibrant, your picture as a painting, as a coloring, will look more interesting. Again, now I use this trick almost everywhere. I try not to do those one color leaves. If you look closer at this area, I added a little bit of blue here. On the dandelion leaves, I added to the center a little bit of red and orange colors to make center slightly more old, so to say. And another good example here, I have this quite bluish natural green color. It's based on dark green Prismacolor. So to make difference with the next plant here, this one I made with ginger root and marine green from warm green family, and they look different and picture again starts to look interesting. Third advice, it's all about shading. When I started to color my botanical compositions, they looked very flat. They didn't have nice strong shadows and contrast. Now I really started to pay a lot of attention to such questions. Maybe let's open some pictures. Maybe this one. Maybe this one. So when I put my basic color, my basic green colors, I start to think about additional contrast. And I start to add dark colors for the leaves which are behind. I additionally darkened those bottom leaves. Areas where one leaf cover another, so between them I always prefer to add shadows. It's kind of second step of my work always. For example, I darkened this area, I darkened this area, or areas between leaves, and in such way I hope that there is an impression that some leaves are on top level, some leaves are behind. Usually I do it in two steps. First I put my main green colors and then I shade. For shading I love to use both Prismacolors and polychromos pencils. With Prismacolors I love to use all pencils with name black. I mean black grape, black cherry and black raspberry. Yes, it sounds surprising, but black raspberry and black cherry for me works quite well. Also, another additional good shading color, it's espresso. We are talking about shading leaves. If I need to use polychromos, I love to use dark sepia and dark indigo. When I improved shading on the leaves, I started to think about my flowers, which also didn't look very impressive, honestly. My most successful coloring, I think, where I was happy with contrast, it was in flower year where I managed to do nice poppies. I finally decided to use quite dark colors between petals. I think that again black grape, black cherry here, and even dark gray colors like 90% warm gray or French gray, they helped me here. So I added shadows carefully between all the leaves and in the central part. When I just started to color, I was afraid to add very dark colors on petals. I thought that my flowers, they would look dirty. No, instead they finally started to look more three-dimensional. So on flowers, I also use some dark colors, but I also started to use gray colors. Actually, it's a trick which I discovered from Chris Cheng. She's absolutely amazing, and if you need ideas about flower and leaves coloring, Chris Cheng is the best source. Maybe you won't say it, but I used gray colors for shading almost everywhere here, maybe apart from these flowers. We have gray colors here, gray colors here, and gray colors here, because I blended them with main colors for the flowers. They don't create any dirt, they just deepen shadows and create quite soft, nice shading. So it was advice number 3. Think about your shading, experiment a little bit, maybe watch some videos about colors you can use for shading. Indeed, deep shadows is the key to successful coloring, and your pictures will look more three-dimensional. And final trick which also worked for me, I love to use mixed media because I love pictures by Leila Dewley, but some of them are totally terrifying because they have huge green areas. For example, I want to do this page with irises, but when I start to think that, sorry guys, I need to color all these leaves with my pencils, I immediately start to think that first, I will need weeks to color them smoothly. And second, I will totally run out of all my green Prismacolor pencils, and there will be a problem for all my other colorings. So I started to combine media. Sometimes I use watercolors, but as a beginner watercoloring colorist with very limited skills, I feel like with pencils, water-soluble pencils, I have more control. So recently I prefer to do underpaint with Derwent Inktense. You know that I love them, and I was happy that they are not laying in their case after I stopped to color Magical City, Magical Journey. Finally, I can use them more frequently in botanical illustrations. Here it's a good example because the base color for the dandelions and for the violets in the central part I did with Derwent Inktense, again using this idea of warm greens and colder green colors, and it's much quicker. You put basic color, you let it dry, and then you only need to work a little bit on your color accents. For example, here I added a little bit of burnt ochre, I think. And also you need to add more contrast. I grabbed dark green colors, I intensified shadows here and shadows between leaves to show which leaves are on top and which leaves are on the bottom level. It saved me a huge amount of time. And also I felt like when I color a lot of pictures here, I use the same polychromos or Prismacolor pencils with a lot of leaves, and all pictures start to look the same. But when you use Inktense, you can extend your color palette and pictures start to look more interesting. For example, here my yellow leaves, they are made with Inktense. Very quick work, and I had a lot of fun doing these autumn leaves, and only those needles I did with polychromos pencils. And for me, this mixed media, it works really well. I intend to use it more frequently, especially for such pictures where we have huge areas of green and you don't want to spend the whole set of pencils only for one page. Yes, maybe if you're confident, it's also nice to use watercolors, but as I said, I simply have more control with pencils, and it's also dry quicker when I use Inktense. So it was advice number 4. Try to use mixed media at least for the basic layer, and then work on details, color accents with regular pencils. I hope that at least something from this video will be helpful for you, and I hope that you will follow my videos because I really love to color flowers, botanical compositions, so I usually do a lot of such videos. Thanks for watching, and until the next videos.